And welcome, folks, to the Not Mike and Mike Show. My name is Brian Nelson, alongside my co-host, Mike McLeod. I am not Mike. This is obviously Mike. And we have a special show for you today. We're about to set up a season-long type of competition between the two of us regarding the National Football League. And we're going to turn fantasy football on its head a little bit. And, Mike, you kind of came up with this concept. So explain to the folks what we're about to do for today's show.
Yeah, so I'm a big fantasy football guy. And I love picking players, the whole shebang. I got a money league on it this year. It's a lot of fun. But I was thinking, what could we do? Obviously, a two-team league is not going to work because then we all have the greatest players. We all get like 700 points a week. It just doesn't work. So my idea was that we would pick sort of a hybrid between fantasy football and a pick'em league. So we have 5 teams each, and we just have them play each week, and whatever their record is adds on to our record. You can add and drop just the same as everybody else, and at the end of the year, we'll take our combined records, and whoever has the better record gets bragging rights, I guess.
And just like fantasy football, we kind of instituted a little rules regarding the waivers where the person with the lowest overall record will get waiver priority, so they'll be able to drop a team before the other person.
Yeah, so he'll be able to drop a team before me every week, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, and I'll be playing the role of catch-up, so I'll be picking teams out of a hat to just to see if I can possibly catch up. Yeah, just try to catch up, you know.
Right, that's fine.
Yeah. So we are going to start with round 1, and Mike, how are we going to decide who picks first? Obviously.
Right. I got an idea.
Okay.
If your name's Mike, you go first. If your name's not Mike, you go not first.
So not Mike goes not. Okay.
Yeah,
that works. That
yeah.
works. So, Mike, you have the first pick of the first round. Who are you selecting out of all 32 NFL teams?
Cleveland Browns. No, I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers with my first pick. Cam Newton's still an MVP. They went to the Super Bowl last year. They're probably only going to get better with that division still being what it is. Carolina, I wouldn't be surprised if they win another 13 games this year.
And with the returning Kelvin Benjamin to really fortify the one weakness on the offensive end for the Carolina Panthers at wide receiver, when you rely on Ted Ginn the entire season and you still make the Super Bowl and you get a legit number 1 and Kelvin Benjamin back, you got to like the chances of the Panthers. If I had the first pick overall, but obviously because of the rules of being not Mike, I can't pick the Panthers. I would definitely have picked the Panthers first. Any concern that Josh Norman left that secondary and there might be a drop-off defensively?
There might be a drop-off defensively, but there's going to be an upswing offensively because now Greg Olsen isn't going to get doubled in the red zone because you got to worry about fade routes to Kelvin Benjamin, like you said. So I think there's going to be more shootouts because you don't have that lockdown corner, but it's going to be a lot more fun, a lot more games in the 20s, in the 30s, and they're still going to win a lot of ball games.
So excellent pick, Mike. I would have went the exact same way. So with my first pick of the first round, I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going NFC. I think they are a well-rounded team, both offensively and defensively. You have the returning Tyrann Mathieu, who got injured at the end. That really dashed their playoff hopes. But in terms of just fantasy, where we're not dealing with the playoffs, we're just dealing with regular season, I wanted to start out my squad with a reliable pick, one that I can keep the entire season and believe that they will have the better chance of winning week in and week out.
And, you know, Carson Palmer, he's getting up there. He has been injured the last couple of years, but he's a guy that 2 years ago had him 12-0 before he tore his ACL. So if you're expecting Carson Palmer to have a drop-off this year, then I think you're going to keep winning.
And really the turnaround for the Cardinals started through free agency, in my opinion, with them fortifying the offensive line with left tackle Jared Veldheer from your Raiders and Mike Iupati from my 49ers. And so that combination is a very potent left side of the offensive line for the Arizona Cardinals. And I don't think it's a coincidence that after getting those two players, they really shot up to the top of the NFC and took over the top spot from the Seattle Seahawks, which had a stranglehold on that division for years. And now Arizona looks at the top of many people's boards for the NFC West. So that's our first 2 picks individually. Let's go to the second round.
All right.
You have the first pick.
I don't know why you didn't take this team first. I'm glad you didn't. I'm going to go Green Bay Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers, still a boy. He's going to be up there in the MVP talks. Jordy Nelson is back this year, which takes some pressure off of Randall Cobb. They got Jared Cook from L.A., so that's going to be a lot of fun. He has a lot more weapons on that offense. Defense is going to be what the defense is. It's pretty ho-hum. nice running, well-oiled machine. So I think if everybody stays healthy, if this is an if healthy scenario, Packers could be, a top seed in the NFC.
The only reason I didn't go Packers with my first pick is that uncertainty regarding last year where everybody thought the Packers were going to run away with things, and they really struggled with Jordy Nelson being out. Nobody really expected that offense to really stagger as dramatically as it did. Obviously, there's going to be a drop-off when Aaron Rodgers loses his top target, but they really looked pedestrian, and they couldn't really separate at all.
They only beat the 49ers by 14 last year.
And if you can't beat the 49ers by over 20, you're garbage. So really, in the scheme of things, at the top of my draft, I wouldn't risk the top of my draft and you getting the Arizona Cardinals where you have two solid NFC teams to really build around, and I would be playing catch-up right off the bat.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's a solid pick for the Packers. Obviously, we're gonna talk for the rest of the show also about our AFC and NFC predictions, and I think you're gonna get me on one NFC prediction later on, but that's still to come, folks. Let's go to my second pick of the second round. I'm going AFC. I am going the Kansas City Chiefs with my first pick.
Okay.
I think my rationale here is that they play the Bears week 1, and I think that's a solid start for week 1 in terms of matchup where I can get off to a good start. And with the AFC West losing their Denver Broncos quarterback, Peyton Manning, to retirement, and having Trevor Siemian in there with a shaky offensive line, they're going to drop off with the long balls. and also with the Chargers being struggling and being the Chargers, the Chiefs have two favorable matchups for 4 of their 16 games. So you can really pencil in an Andy Reid team for about 10 wins a year.
That's fair.
I think that's, for me, would be another solid team to build around. I may drop them later on when they face some tougher competition and pick up a weak favorable matchup. But for now, I am sticking with the Kansas City Chiefs with my second pick.
And you gotta stage strong, because this is a team last year that started 1-6 and then 1-5 and then rattled off 10 straight wins. Ended up 11-5 and won the division. So just because they start out slow doesn't mean necessarily that they're not going to be a good team for you down the road.
So those are our 2 picks. When we come back, we'll go through round 3 as well as preview one half of the NFL with the AFC predictions from both Mike and myself. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dylan Collins, alongside my broadcast partner, Melanie Fuller. Make sure you tune in to our upcoming events, which includes high school football, where the Wilson Wood Wildcats take on the River Valley Falcons, and the Lady Falcons volleyball team test their skills in the SCC Volleyball Classic.
Mark your calendars for the SCC Baseball Alumni Game on October 8th and the Solano College Hall of Fame induction ceremony on November 5th. Check out our latest episodes and past events on our social media outlets or Fairfield Cable Access Channel 28 if you live in the area. For Dylan Collins, I'm Melanie Fuller, and thank you for supporting the Solano College Sports Network, your #1 source for local sports.
And welcome back. If you are just joining us, we are in the midst of our first ever 2016 NFL team fantasy draft. Let's recap what we did in the first rounds. Started with my picks. You got to pick first.
Go ahead.
Let's recap mine first.
We can recap.
I went Arizona Cardinals #1, Kansas City Chiefs #2. Build 2 solid, at least 10-win teams to kind of build my team around. And now let's show your first 2 picks with your first selections in each round.
I mean, also 2 12-win teams that you can build around. So
I'm already at a 4-win deficit. So let's go on and proceed with our third round of the draft. Mike, you have the first pick.
Yeah, I really thought you were going to pick them in the second round. So far, my second and third round picks are going to be ones that I thought you were going to take. Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be my third round pick, and I think just that division screams Pittsburgh. You got Cincinnati not really doing anything. You got Cleveland and Baltimore obviously not doing anything unless RG3 is an MVP this year. But I think just Pittsburgh, you can probably slot them in for another 11 or 12 wins, especially if everybody stays healthy. Antonio Brown, once they get Le'Veon Bell back after week 3, you have a team that can score 40 points a game, and you're not going to lose a lot of games if you score 40 in.
Yeah, and they have a very potent offense. I think Le'Veon Bell's durability issues make me kind of shy away from Pittsburgh a little bit, and that's why I picked Kansas City just as.
But they still have a good backup running back.
They do. D'Angelo Williams,
Yeah.
fountain of youth, once he moved from Carolina over to Pittsburgh, and he's done a great job filling in for Le'Veon Bell when he's not there. And it's the best of both worlds, too, because you keep D'Angelo fresh when Le'Veon comes back. Should something happen to him,
Exactly.
he's ready
Yeah.
to go. And
he can still be a good goal line touchdown vulture if you really need a yard or two. So,
yeah, Pittsburgh's definitely a solid pick and a team we both like. For my third round selection, I'm going with the Houston Texans. With the division that's kind of up in the air, I think Houston might have the edge just in terms of they did a lot with nothing last year.
Yeah, that's true.
And they improved dramatically with free agency, with Brock Osweiler, just maybe a tick up above Brian Hoyer, Brandon Whedon.
that's true. I always go, it wasn't a great signing, and then you keep telling me how bad the quarterbacks were last year, and I remember, and all of a sudden now it's a great signing.
Yeah, Tom, not a savage at all in any sense of the word as a backup quarterback. And Lamar Miller is a solid running back to replace the Arian Foster era, which has ended as he headed down to Miami on that one-year
Yeah, it
deal.
was a weird, not a
Pseudo trade.
But you don't believe in Alfred Blue?
He's not my boy Blue. And so Houston is my selection. I think this is a team that, at least starting out, I said that Kansas City plays the Bears. It's actually Houston that played the Bears, and that's a huge reason why I chose
But Kansas City
Houston.
plays the Chargers. So.
Exactly. So I just mixed up the bad teams that they're playing, but they're playing bad teams, folks. So that's my rationale for our first picks. And
they do play the Patriots, but it is before that suspension is up, so they get to kind of dodge a bullet there.
yeah, they faced the great Jimmy the Great Garoppolo, and so
Jimmy Garoppolo is probably he could probably win them 10 games just by himself, I think.
who knows? And Jacoby Brissett out of NC State is a quarterback they drafted pretty high. So if Garoppolo doesn't work out, they have another young quarterback that they could potentially go to. And that kind of leads us into our discussion about the AFC and our predictions for the upcoming 2016 season. Let's start out west where we are. And I am going with the Kansas City Chiefs as the division winners in the AFC West, just narrowly squeaking out the upstart Oakland Raiders. I wouldn't be surprised if both teams finish with the same exact record at around 10-6, maybe 11-5. And I think the Chiefs might squeak out the tiebreaker because the tiebreaker goes to teams that play in your own division.
Yeah.
And if anybody, I think the Raiders could be susceptible to losing to a bad team just because they aren't the most experienced team in the world. Von Miller could wreak havoc on either one of these
that's
teams.
fair, yeah.
And so it's really a coin flip for me. I thought the Kansas City Chiefs just have a little bit more steadiness about them to narrowly edge out the Raiders.
Alex Smith has a higher floor than Derek Carr, is what you're saying.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let me change your picks to make them right. Let me show you my AFC West picks. There you go. Basically the same rationale. I think they're both going to be 11-5, 10-6. I think you actually, when I said it, you stole my reasoning for it because I think it's going to go basically to a coin flip.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Kansas City Chiefs lose to somebody awful. The Chargers always play everybody well in that division. Phillip Rivers still chugging along. And like
Trying
you
to
said,
support his 17 kids.
and Kansas City going to Denver, a lot like Oakland going to Denver, the altitude messes with you. And so I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, Von Miller just throwing somebody out there and killing Alex Smith. And then you're
You know
done for the
what
season.
could be a factor is the head-to-head matchup as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Should Kansas City sweep or Oakland sweep, that could be the deciding factor in the AFC.
I predict them to split that.
I do too.
Split that series, but I wouldn't be surprised if either team wins both games.
I think the funny thing about this show is that we have the same exact rationale for things, same exact thinking, yet we go with the opposite results. That's the beauty of the Not Mike and Mike show. So let's head up north to the AFC North and get our predictions on.
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
Mine is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers up top. I think along the same lines, they are the most potent offense that really separates them from anybody else in the division. Hugh Jackson leaving the Bengals is going to hurt them, as well as Tyler Eifert's injury. They're not going to have their star tight end for the start of the season, plus the wide receiver departures. they're not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination.
Yep.
But they are solid pieces of an offense that are familiar with the offense. They had to bring in Brandon LaFell. They drafted Tyler Boyd in the second round. So they're relying on Brandon LaFell. And when is the last time Brandon LaFell relying on him? When did that work out?
Not relying on him, but he did have a good year.
Yeah, as a LaFell
like
is a
a
great
fourth-
supplementary player on a really good team. He's not your go-to number 2.
The Raiders picked him up for like a playoff push, and he was a number 2, number 3 slot receiver guy. Did not work out.
No.
Not at all.
And then I have the Ravens and the Browns. Browns coming up in the rear, as they have been their entire...
There's jokes to be made there.
Yeah.
I basically have the same thing. I just wanted to show you that nobody's going to finish third in that division. Baltimore and
troll.
Cleveland are both so terrible that they're both going to finish last. I think that SCSN could put a team together and finish third in that division.
I don't know about that.
Fine, you're right.
According
I'll
to our
drop you.
Turkey Bowl, we lost to the speech and debate team the last 2 years.
We'll bring the speech and debate team in. And
the combo, just the
Yeah.
Solano All-Stars.
Malcolm could run all over the Browns.
Shout out Malcolm Gamble. So let's go to our AFC South, since we have similar situations where we pick the Steelers and the Bengals to finish top 2. Let's differentiate ourselves a little bit. I have the Houston Texans winning the AFC South over a shaky Andrew Luck-led Indianapolis Colts. I think last year really put some trepidations in my mind about...
Good word, trepidations.
Thank you. I try. The offensive line has not been solved at all. They drafted the center, yes, but really the tackles are what is going to get Andrew Luck potentially hurt again.
Yeah.
And they didn't address that at all in free agency or the draft, and neither did they address the defense or the skill position players. I can't even think off the top of my head any notable players that they added, and I know like every transaction that there is, and all I can think of is their first round pick is a center. That's all the Colts did to get better.
That's fair.
And the NFL is weird in that you can have the exact same roster and somehow do better, but with Coach Pagano and the Colts, I don't see that happening. I still think they're solid enough with the talent of Andrew Luck to finish second in the division, where there's 2 upstart young teams in the Jaguars and the Titans that have young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And they could potentially make a push, but I don't think it's their time yet.
All right. Well, yeah, I see where you're coming from. Let me show you my picks real quick. It's basically the same thing. I just think that you had the Colts almost win the division last year with Matt Hasselbeck starting 7 games that year. And so you keep Andrew Luck healthy the entire year. It's a very if-healthy scenario, but Frank Gore is going to be old and they're not going to have a running game, but they haven't had a running game Andrew Luck's entire career. So nothing's really changed there. T.Y. Hilton didn't do very well with a backup quarterback there, but Andrew Luck loves to go to T.Y. Hilton, and T.Y. Hilton still has a lot of speed. So I think that the Colts can beat on the Titans, and I think they can really, if you just cut block J.J. Watt and you try to hurt Jadeveon Clowney, you can beat the Texans.
You don't even have to try to hurt Jadeveon Clowney. He could.
He's on the ground, out 6 weeks. He's like Tony Romo. By the way, I told you to pick up Dak Prescott last week. Listen to me. You'll make the playoffs. I am a guru about these sort of things.
Nostra Mike.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Jaguars, I think, are going to be sneaky good. They're going to end up being like maybe 8-8, 9-7 even. I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans go like 2-14. Just they lose to everybody in the division and go 0-6 in the division. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I just think Andrew Luck is still Andrew Luck, and he was an MVP candidate 2 years ago, and he can still lead a team to a playoff berth.
In a vacuum, picking Brock Osweiler over Andrew Luck seems like the worst sports decision I've ever made in my life. But I'm going with it. And we'll see how it goes.
In a world riddled with bad sports decisions.
So now let's go over to the AFC East. Speaking of bad sports decisions, Tom Brady's 4-game suspension is going to put a big asterisk and a big spotlight on this division. I still think the New England Patriots are so dominant in this division that doesn't even matter. And the 4 games that Jimmy Garoppolo will start, one of them is against the Dolphins, one's against the Bills. Those are familiar division opponents. Maybe you can squeak out 2-2.
Yeah.
And with that, you just need 10 wins to go to 12 and 12's plenty to win the
12-4.
Yeah, 12-4 is plenty to.
I would hate for the Patriots to go 12-4 when Brady's suspended for 4 games.
Oh, numerology. There you go, folks. I didn't even know it, and that's my prediction.
Yeah.
So, I feel like the Jets getting Ryan Fitzpatrick was a huge deal, and not having Geno Smith start the entire season. If Geno Smith started the entire season, I put them at the very bottom. But
Geno
Fitzpatrick
Smith used to be a cool guy. Like, I used to like Geno Smith his rookie year, and then he just kind of... Like, when he was the backup to Mark Sanchez, like...
You were all in for Geno
Yeah,
replacing Sanchez?
Geno Smith was like my East version of Terrell Pryor. Like, you got to start him. You got to play the guy. But neither of them worked out, and now one's a receiver in Cleveland. But yeah, let me show you my predictions real quick. Basically, I just have more faith in the Ryan brothers than you do, I think. And the Jets, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's going to be good. Brandon Marshall, he's going to have incentive to do really well, but I think you just lose a couple pieces in terms of the coaching on the Jets. And the Dolphins, I really want to like the Dolphins. I really do. I just think there's no room for them to be higher than they are. Like, if they were in the South, they'd probably finish second.
That's a good point. Yeah, I really like the hiring of Adam Gase for Ryan Tannehill's career. And that
Adam Gase, sorry, not to cut you off. He gave Jay Cutler his best statistical season, which, by the way, he still didn't throw for over 4,000 yards. 9 years in the league, never threw for over 4,000 yards. But Adam Gase brought the best out of him. So now you got a guy that has been repeatedly not living up to his potential, paired with a guy who excels at getting the best out of people. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if Tannehill throws for like 4,500 yards.
Yeah, I really think the Dolphins for 2017 to 2018, that's a team you can look out for as a sleeper team to rise in their division. But I think just for this being the first year of Adam Gase as a head coach, it's going to be a little shaky. There's going to be turnover. So due to that, I think they finish at the bottom of their division.
That's fair.
And the Patriots, yet again, with the AFC East.
As much as it pains me.
Breaking news, folks. So those are our AFC predictions. When we come back, we will have our 4th round of our fantasy draft, as well as address the NFC in our predictions.
If you have an interest in a career in sports broadcasting,
whether it's behind the scenes or on camera,
then this is the class for you.
Class is held every Wednesday from 1:30 to 4:30 in room 121 alongside the library building.
For more information, contact Greg Poff. That's me at solano.edu.
we hope to see you here next semester. And remember,
it's more than just sports. It's an education.
Welcome back, folks. We are in the middle of our first ever 2016 NFL Team Fantasy Draft. Let's
We
recap.
gotta think of a better name.
I know. We're some creative minds,
Not for that.
and we have just the most bland
I mean,
stock issue.
we came up with the idea. It's still pretty creative. It's just
So if you have an idea for the new name of our fantasy draft,
leave it in the comments below.
yeah. So let's recap what my team is
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
far. I'm behind. Well, I can admit it. Not having the first pick has really affected my confidence and the way I've chosen my teams. But I have the Arizona Cardinals.
You know, I offered to let you snake draft and get back-to-back picks, and you didn't want it. You didn't want any part of it.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what? It's all right. I like being the underdog.
Hubris.
I work better under the pressure knowing that I'm not the leader, you know?
Seabiscuit, you need to see yourself pass somebody.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in order for me to feel like I've accomplished something, I need to beat the master, you know? So,
It's not going to happen.
yeah.
Anyway.
Not with the Cardinals, the Chiefs, and the Houston Texans. Mike's picks coming out very strong.
Oh, yeah.
Panthers, Packers,
boys.
Steelers, and now you have the first pick of the 4th round. I should have snaked, folks,
Yeah.
but you have the first pick.
I'm going to go Oakland with this pick. Same, like we already talked about, Kansas City, Oakland are both going to be 10-win teams, basically. And, you know, they have a tough schedule. I'm probably going to end up dropping them and picking them back up. I got to show my hometown bias a little bit. I know you can't take the 49ers because that would just be suicide. But, you know, they might win. I don't know. But Oakland is just going to be a good team. Derek Carr threw for almost 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns against 13 interceptions. They got better. They picked up Osemele, and they really did a lot to solidify the front line. Reggie Nelson, Bruce Irvin, the additions on the defensive side of the ball. So I think they're a team that, if everything goes right, could be a 12-win team. It's not going to go right because they have a game at home in Mexico City. They have to play the NFC and AFC South, so they have like 31,000 miles of travel. I read that somewhere. So it's going to be tough. They're probably going to lose a lot of games just to the schedule, but they're still going to win 10 games probably.
Well, folks, this notebook is not the Odyssey, but we have a homer. My next pick with the 4th round. That was a solid.
Yeah,
reference.
no, good job.
Pat myself on the back. Seattle Seahawks are still available. I wanted to avoid this pick just because I picked the Arizona Cardinals, and with them being division foes, they're 2 really good teams, so that's a 2 guaranteed loss for me if I keep both of these teams together the entire season. And I really wanted to avoid this, but I feel like with the value of the 4th round, I didn't want you to have the chance to take Seattle with the next pick, and so that's really the main reason why I picked Seattle. And it leads us into our discussion of the NFC West and our predictions of the entire NFC as a whole. I have the Cardinals and the Seahawks at the top of the division. This is the one division where we unanimously agree. Cardinals, Seahawks, LA Rams, and the lowly 49ers.
Yeah, there's not much to say here. It's pretty cut and dry. Arizona Cardinals, Seattle Seahawks, they're going to be 12-4, 11-5, kind of duking it out. LA Rams, I wouldn't be surprised if they go 500 this year. I don't know. I just have a lot of faith in Jared Goff. I think playing in LA, I think they have a lot of confidence that they're a new team. They had Hard Knocks this year, and isn't there some like superstition that the team that goes on Hard Knocks like almost makes the playoffs or something like that?
Texans were on last year.
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
made the playoffs.
And then the Jets before them. So, you know, there
could be that HBO rub to give them the necessary juice to maybe sneak in as the second wild card, because obviously they're not going to win the division. So the only way that they have a shot of making the playoffs is through the wild card.
And so rarely do you see 3 teams win 10 games in the division because they have to play each other. So unless they all split all
unless
the
they have the 49ers in that division where they all beat them, and so they have that extra 2-game cushion. So it is possible with how bad the 49ers are. But I still think it's a long shot.
Hold on, real quick.
Yes.
Just pause it. What is your prediction for the Niners this year? 1-15? 2-14?
I was thinking 2-14.
Okay.
That's a nice,
I bet
even number.
my friend at work a lunch that the Niners would be under 8-8. He took the over on 8-8.
Wow, 8-8.
But he's also a Sixers fan, so like.
Okay, respect the process, you know. And I think for the 49ers' future, I think being 2-14 is the best thing, because if you don't get a top quarterback in the draft and you are stuck with a second-round quarterback that you're kind of tied to and people expect them to be your franchise quarterback and they don't pan out, then you lose your job. Why not tank a year and take a quarterback with a Deshaun Watson out of Clemson, still in college, going into his junior year, probably going to come out early, and I hope he comes out early. If he doesn't come out early, then this whole theory is out the window.
You're going to be 2-14 next year, too.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, as long as you're bad enough to get a franchise quarterback that you can at least attempt to build around, I think that's not the worst strategy. If you don't believe in Jared Goff and a Carson Wentz, who 2 other teams traded up to select those players. So I would rather lose that season than trade away 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds in order to draft a quarterback that you're not 100% sure about.
That's fair.
So let's move on to the NFC North, and the big news here is the Teddy Bridgewater injury to his leg really changes the scope of things in this division. In a division where I think the Packers and the Vikings, you can have a real debate about who would win that division with Teddy Bridgewater healthy. All of a sudden becomes a Packers runaway, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's not going to be a lot of change there. I have a lot of changes in my predictions, but that's only because the Detroit Lions lost Calvin Johnson. I don't think Marvin Jones Jr. is the answer to their woes. Packers are going to run away with this division. They might win 13 games just based off of having to play 6 games against these guys. And as you can see there, those are my predictions. I have the Bears finishing second. I think that you can build on a lot of what Chicago did last year. Yes, they lost Matt Forte. Yes, they lost Martellus Bennett, but Alshon Jeffrey's still good. Kevin White is healthy this year. So you still have options and weapons on that offense. Hopefully Jay Cutler isn't Jay Cutler anymore, 9 years into his career.
Yeah, the rare 10-year turnaround where it finally clicks. Oh, this is what I'd have to do to not be hot garbage the entire season?
I think it has more to do with just how bad I think Detroit and Minnesota are going to be. Minnesota's backup quarterback left practice today with a hand injury, so now all they have is Sean Hill.
Sean over the hill.
Yeah. So maybe they trade for Kaepernick and they go like 6-10.
Yeah, we were talking about the options at quarterback. It's like if Sanchez gets cut, maybe they can sign Sanchez.
Yeah.
If Geno Smith, they could get Geno
Brett
Smith.
Favre could come out of retirement.
Brett Favre couldn't come back, and but with the Bears, another thing too is Zach Miller really emerged in order for them to trade Martellus Bennett and feel comfortable at the tight end position.
Yeah, so you still have like 3 options that could potentially have over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I think really we don't have like records tied to these standings predictions, but Bears maybe ceiling is 7-9.
Yeah,
as a 2 seed in that.
But I think that the Lions are going to go like 5-11, and I wouldn't be surprised if
4-12 for the Vikings.
I mean, they have a good defense, but
yeah. So it'll be tough sledding for the Vikings coming up in this 2016 campaign.
Oh, and the Vikings finished first in their division last year, so they have to play the other 2 top teams in the other divisions that they don't play. It's going to be, like you said, tough sledding.
So NFC South now, and this is a division that really for a while had the trend of the person who finished at the team that finished at the bottom of the division went on to win the division the next year. Panthers stopped that trend in recent memory, and I have the Panthers at least, and so do you, at the top of the NFC South once again.
Yeah, I mean, Panthers, I picked them first overall. Obviously, you know where I stand on how good they're going to be. I think there's just not a lot going on here. Atlanta got better, but I don't think they got that much better. Like, everybody is going to be 8-8.
It's like the NFC East coming up.
Yeah.
Where it's just a lot of mediocrity in there. They all kind of take each other out.
Exactly.
Or the NBA East, where it's just like a lot.
Everybody's 42 and 42.
Yeah.
Like
we're at 4 through
41. No, yeah, 41.
Yeah, we're the 4 through like 10 teams. Yeah, are around the same record, and our predictions really differentiate. I have the Saints as a number 2 seed.
Yeah, let me show you mine real quick. I just have the Buccaneers. I have a lot of faith in Jameis Winston. You were hyping him up for me when I was picking my fantasy team. He's going to have a good year. Doug Martin is going to have a good year. You still have Vincent Jackson, who had 1,000 yards for most of his career. Mike Evans, who's going to be, I mean, if he hasn't already broken out, he's probably going to break out this year. You don't have a lot on defense that I can really think about, but
Neither do the Saints.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
like the problem,
I don't think Coby Fleener is going to like solve all the Saints' problems.
Exactly, and I really went off of just the relationship between Breeze and Peyton, Sean Payton, the head coach, and that stability in there can rub off on the players to create some confidence. And you have a situation where Sean Payton and Rob Ryan, the former defensive coordinator, went to the Bills, really did not have a great working relationship.
Yeah.
That defense had a lot of issues the past 2 years, giving up historic numbers passing. And so there isn't too much reason why that defense is going to get better other than a scheme change. But it's pins and needles for me. It's like it's not much of a difference between the Saints and the Buccaneers for me.
I put them third just because Marquise Colson also retired. So now you got Willie Snead as like your top guy, and Brandon Cooks. So it's just not nobody that I'm gonna say on the Saints other than Drew Brees scares me.
I can agree with that.
All right.
Let's go to the NFC East and my rankings here. New York Giants, Washington team in that Washington, D.C. area.
Yeah. The Washington football franchise?
Yes. Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles is how I break things down. I think this is a really close division. I think the Giants, I feel like they go through these spurts of just mediocrity, and then they come out of nowhere and surprise a lot of teams. And I think this could be that season where you have a head coaching change, but you don't have a whole organizational change, where Ben McAdoo has been with the New York organization now. And so it's not this big upheaval where now the whole thing's changed and Eli Manning has to learn new terminology, Odell Beckham has to learn new terminology. You have a familiar offensive system that's been successful, and that defense had some free agency signings.
Yeah.
It's tough for me to like really go all in on a team that's built off of free agency, but it should improve it enough to win this really close division.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of mediocrity. Yep, that word.
Mediocrity, the geography of mediocrity in the NFC East is really mediocre. Yes.
But you have everybody going like 9-7 to 7-9. I don't have a lot of difference in my picks. My changes are at the bottom of the division. I think with Tony Romo getting hurt, you're going to see them maybe only win 2 games in the first 6, and then whether he comes back or not. I mean, real quick, I know I keep doing this. Do you think Tony Romo's career is over? Like if Dak Prescott comes out and does well, he's been hurt for 3 years in a row.
Honestly, like this isn't our show where we spit out like hot takes.
Yeah.
But if it was, my hot take of the day, Tony Romo will never play another down in the NFL.
Yikes. I like it.
That is my hot take of the day.
Perfect. Yeah.
So that answers your question.
Yeah.
I think Dak Prescott is really impressive of the preseason, and obviously you don't want to hype that up too much, but I think that he will do well enough that he could stay off Romo for this season, and going into next season it'll be a competition. I think Prescott could beat him out.
Yeah. And really just Philly and Dallas are kind of neck and neck for me.
They're there.
Yeah.
There's probably 6-10, 7-9.
Exactly.
And
if Carson Wentz wins 6 games, I'll take it.
There you go. So we both have the Giants winning the NFC East. So when we come back, we will finish out the 5th and final round of our fantasy draft, as well as give you our playoff breakdown and our way too early Super Bowl predictions.
Hi, I'm Tyron Mott, and this is Josh Kinder. I'm here today to talk to you about upcoming topics on our show. It's more than just sports.
Some of these topics will include the do's and don'ts on the first day of college, the cost of education, dating and relationships, marijuana, pros and cons.
You can watch us on Fairfield Cable Access Channel 28, our Facebook page, Solano College Sports Network, or our YouTube page, Solano College Sports Network. And remember, I'm Tyron Mott, and this is Josh Kinder, and thanks for supporting the Solano College Sports Network.
And welcome back, folks. We are wrapping up our 2016 NFL Team Fantasy Draft. Don't let the name fool you. It's been very fun doing this exciting game and competition between the two of us. Let's recap for you, if you're just joining us, our team so far, our first 4 picks.
Go ahead.
I have the Cardinals. I also have the Chiefs, the Texans, and my last pick, the Seahawks. For Mike, he had the very first pick of each round, and he chose the Panthers, Packers, Steelers, Raiders. Mike, you have the first pick in the last round.
Okay.
Who are you selecting?
I'm going to go, this one's going to be the one that I bounce around a little bit. I'm going to go Giants week 1 because they play Dallas, and I think if there was a game that Dallas was going to lose with Dak Prescott, it's the opener. And so the Giants are going to come out. They're going to show off OBJ. They're going to really come out and ball out. I might drop them literally after that week. I don't know. We'll find out next Friday. But, Giants are going to be my pick for this week.
Yeah, I think we had a similar mindset with our last pick where we kind of take all the top teams that are probably going to win in double-digit games. So now it's just the favorable matchup. Who is playing the worst teams in the league? And so that's why I picked the Indianapolis Colts with my last selection. This is a good team that we both think are going to do well in this upcoming year, but they are facing the Miami Dolphins. That was a very favorable matchup for me when I was looking at the schedule. I was tempted to go Eagles because they play the Cleveland Browns, but the Eagles are sorry enough just for me to be like, you know what,
They
Hugh
can-
Jackson's there,
yeah.
new energy, like the thought process behind the LA Rams having a breakout year this year. There's a lot of excitement in Cleveland. Well, for Cleveland.
They're excited about LeBron.
Yeah, about the Cavs winning, you know. The Indians are doing well in
Still not
MLB.
over it, folks.
So that can carry over to football. Maybe
If the Indians win the World Series this year, I will eat your hat.
Okay. Well, don't eat my hat, then people will see how bald I am.
That's all right.
All right. So those are our picks. Your final team consists of the Carolina Panthers, Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers, Oakland Raiders, and finally the New York Giants. I have the Arizona Cardinals, Kansas City Chiefs, Houston Texans, Seattle Seahawks, and the Indianapolis Colts. We each and every week will provide you the recap of the previous week's games, and for our next show, we will preview our first week of matchups.
Yeah, and after every week after that, we'll just give you the updated record. Most we can go, obviously, is 5-0. And then give us a couple minutes if we want to make any changes, add or drop anybody. We'll hopefully be adding and dropping a lot so we can try to showcase a lot of different teams. Because, I mean, I'm going to keep most of my teams most of the year because they're awesome.
And I am not.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of him showcasing teams.
All right, so now we have broken down the AFC and NFC.
Yep.
So obviously with our standings, we have picked our division winners, and let's provide you with a clear graphic of my division winners.
Okay.
I have the Packers winning the NFC North and being the top seed in the NFC. Carolina Panthers following at number 2, winning the NFC South. Arizona Cardinals going to come out of that tough NFC West. I think the Seattle Seahawks, and just the fact that the Cardinals have to play the top teams of the other divisions as the reigning division winner, that's going to knock them down just enough behind the Packers and the Panthers, and with the Packers' easy division schedule. Cardinals 3, even though I really like them, and then New York Giants squeaking out of that NFC East.
The little
Mike's
9-7 fourth seed.
9-7 Magic. Mike's picks are just a little bit different than mine, seating-wise.
First of all, before I get into that, because you can see them there, so you pick the Cards first.
Yes.
First pick. The third overall, the third seed. Then you let me get Carolina and the Packers.
Yes.
Who are the top 2 seeds that you have in that conference. You want to explain yourself? You want to defend yourself at all?
You know, I'm maybe practicing some self-sabotaging behavior from time to time, and clearly some oversights in my preparation for either the draft or the standings. They just didn't sync up, folks, and I completely whiffed on picking the Packers with my first pick. I'll admit it.
Yeah.
When we decided on the NFL draft, we wanted to be prepared for you and not just like spit out random teams on air live when we're taping. So
live when we're taping.
Yes.
Anyway, you see my picks there. Carolina Panthers. We've documented all these teams so far. We have the same division winners, which I think is kind of cool. But Cardinals, then Pack, and then the New York Giants. Giants won't have the 4th best record, but they're going to win that division. So.
And where we differ is on the AFC side and who's winning. My seeds for the AFC, I have the New England Patriots still winning the AFC despite the 4-game suspension. I think Garoppolo can squeak out 1 or 2 wins. And the
Just keep them
Patriots
afloat.
just keep them in contention. And I think the AFC is so deep at the top that 12 wins, 11 wins could be the top seed, and tiebreakers would be in effect. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning the AFC South and being the number 2 seed. Kansas City Chiefs and Oakland Raiders, same kind of idea behind the Cardinals, and that they are going to be battling with the Raiders a lot for that top seed. So they both kind of take some shots at each other, dropping down to 3. And the Houston Texans, kind of like the New York Giants, somebody's got to win that division. Why not Houston?
Okay, let me show you where you're wrong.
Okay.
Let me show you my picks. Steelers are going to win that whole thing. I mean, at least in the NFC or AFC.
The regular season.
The regular season. So they're going to have the top seed, 12-4, 13-3. I wouldn't be surprised at any of it. I could also be completely wrong. I'm basing it mostly off of my fantasy team and the fact that I have all 3 of them. And then I don't really. The New England Patriots, just that 4 games, like you said, is going to hurt them enough to where maybe they only win 11 games. And I don't think that's enough for first place. Oakland Raiders, just because we already talked about that, the Chiefs are not going to beat the Raiders in this division. This is the Raiders' division to lose, I think. And then the Colts, for the same reason. Somebody has to win that division, and we've already talked about it. This is just a recap.
Yeah, so let's go to the wild card. Who do you have for your 2 wild card teams, Mike?
So we're going to start in the NFC. I have the Seahawks, and I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Seahawks, pretty much a shoe-in. They could have won the division. The Bucs, I really like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really like Jameis Winston. I've already talked about it. Mike Evans, Vincent Jackson. It's just going to be a good team this year, and I think that the NFC is really top-heavy, and then there's just this like weird amount of space right here in the middle where there's going to be fluctuation. And I like the Bucs.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks take advantage of that weakness in the middle, and we both have them as the 5 seed. For my 6 seed, it's just kind of a pick 'em for me. I think the Washington Redskins, they could do enough. They could not. I don't know. I like
whoever.
The Kirk Cousins to Jordan Reed. That's as strong a connection as anybody else in the league. And who knows what the rookie Josh Doxson can do?
Yeah.
And
I didn't like him at TCU, but
who knows? He could translate well into the NFL.
Yeah.
And they signed Josh Norman on their defense to try and shore things up with the likes of Odell Beckham Jr., Des Bryant in that division. You have to have a top corner to try and slow those guys down. Josh Norman could do enough just to keep the Redskins in contention, sneak into the playoffs.
I'm going to love seeing Josh Norman face OBJ twice this year.
Fireworks, folks, fireworks. For the AFC side, I have your Oakland Raiders as the 5 seed. I think they are definitely, out of all the non-division winners, the strongest team and should make the playoffs. And for my 6 seed, I have the New York Jets, taking advantage of the New England Patriots suspension, even though they don't play them. That didn't make sense at all. All right, folks, I'm correcting myself now live.
At least I don't have to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
See, now I'm just trying to premeditate the attacks made by my co-host here, Mike McLeod. And New York Jets, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is the reason why. Man, my logic. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the reason why the New York Jets are going to make the playoffs. Never thought I'd say that in my life. Never thought I'd pick Brock Osweiler over Andrew Luck. But alas, here we are.
The state of the NFL.
Yeah, but Fitzpatrick has a good connection with Brandon Marshall, with Eric Decker. And that offense, they set record numbers for the New York Jets franchise. And Todd Bowles, the head coach, is a defensive guy.
Yeah.
And they drafted on the defense. Their defense should get better. Even though they did lose their nose tackle, nose tackles can be replaced. It's not like losing your top pass rusher. It's not like losing your top cornerback. That is a position where just taking up size, filling gap control, while you want a dominant nose tackle, you can get by without one.
Okay. Let me just give you my picks real quick. I think Cincinnati does enough to squeak into the playoffs. Well, squeak in as the 5th seed. But they've made the playoffs like every year for the last 6 years. Andy Dalton, before he got hurt, was an MVP candidate. It was obviously Cam Newton's race to lose, but you had to mention who could finish second, Andy Dalton. And that's not a phrase I ever thought I would say, but the Red Rifle looks to be pretty good. And Tyler Eifert will come back eventually. They can rely on A.J. Green. They do have a lot of yardage elsewhere or on the DL, but I think that Cincinnati could still be good. They still have a strong running game. And then my 6th seed, Kansas City. I have a lot of respect for Kansas City as an organization and their ability to do well. I love Andy Reid. I was a Eagles fan when he was in Philadelphia. Kansas City is going to do well. I just really think that the Raiders are going to beat them in that division. Otherwise, Kansas City, I'd slot them in at the 3-2.
Okay, so we have our playoff set as far as our 6 teams. We're not going to go bracket by bracket and break things down for you. We're just going to go general with our way too early Super Bowl predictions. Do you want to go first, Mike?
Well, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, I, after much deliberation, have gone with the Green Bay Packers and the New England Patriots as my 2 Super Bowl teams.
Okay.
And for the winner, I am going New England Patriots. I think Tom Brady has a chip on his shoulder after being suspended. I think that the Patriots have more, the Packers have more holes that the Patriots can expose than vice versa.
That's fair.
In that matchup. So I will pick the New England Patriots as my Super Bowl winners of 2016.
You know, looking at Tom Brady, I know it's the preseason, but he didn't look good. And, you know, everybody wants Tom Brady to fail, and then it never happens. He's a Hall of Famer. I get it. I think this is the year that maybe things don't go right. I have Pittsburgh and the Packers in the Super Bowl. I like Carolina and the Cardinals as well, but Carson Palmer just doesn't do well. He's the new Peyton Manning, just great regular season, bad playoffs. Carolina, I don't know why I'm picking the Packers over Carolina, but I am. And then I think that the Pack gets it done. I think the Packers come out there and they just, you can't bet against Aaron Rodgers because he threw 3 50-yard Hail Marys last year in the same season. Certain things come together and they just do too well. They do better than they should, and they should be pretty good this year.
So that's it for us here. Our Super Bowl predictions. He has the Packers. I have the Patriots. We will see who is right and who is wrong as the season progresses, and we will update you on our fantasy matchup. And I think one thing we haven't talked about is what happens to the winner and what happens to the loser. Should we add a stipulation?
We'll think of that. We'll update it.
It's a little tease for you to come.
If you have any suggestions, I could shave his head. He could shave my head. I don't know. That's always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you have any suggestions, put them in the comments. You can also find us on YouTube, Facebook. We have a Twitter and an Instagram now. So whenever you feel like chiming in, please do. We'd love to hear your suggestions.
And we'd love for you to tune in to another episode of the Not Mike and Mike Show as this one has wrapped up. For Mike McLeod, I am Brian Nelson. Thank you for watching.